All right, man. It says we're live.
Sweet.
We are recording live. What's up, Matt?
What's up, brother?
All right. So we're going to be talking about this pre-recorded episode tomorrow with my brother on our People Who Move podcast live, LinkedIn live event,
That sounds fun.
streaming on YouTube Live, Facebook Live, to our millions of fans out there. Growing to billions next year.
There you go.
So we're talking with Matt Francis, brand consultant, Tap Productions, and particularly for our audience, I've known Matt for a lot of years here in Charlotte, and what has always been intriguing for me, I met him when I was employed by another company, right? And he was out there doing his thing. You were out there doing your thing. I was like, wow, that'd be really cool. He's doing something that he's passionate about. He is a entrepreneur. He's going out there looking for more business. He's working with multiple groups. And when I started to ask around about you and, and say like, hey, do you know Matt Francis? And your list of clients and people that you've worked with. It was, and I don't know if I've ever told you this, Matt, but when I started asking around, it was for that other company that I was with, Pharaohs, right? Is when we first met, which was, we were an entrepreneurial company, but still, I was employed there. And man, everyone spoke so highly of you and was so. They would say that you're so passionate and connected to the community, and that you were all about what you have said just recently, telling other people's stories really well with visualization and production, high value, high quality. And so that was something that in the hospitality industry in hotels, we have great ideas, but we don't really connect it with the technical expertise. And so,
we need to be out there tweeting this. We need to put it on there. Let's do that social media thing.
Yeah. So you've been an entrepreneur. You've been doing your own thing for, you said 25 years now.
Yep, 25 years. Yeah, I've to speak to your theme. I mean, I've changed over the years to different companies, different things, and ultimately, a lot of my clients, I've had clients for years that know me as my name, and that's why they come to me. But I just love storytelling. I love filmmaking was my first passion, and then when social media became like a really big thing, I started really diving in and really helping people to tell their story. Because at the end of the day, the thing that people don't talk about with social media, they keep talking about things like posting, and I need to put more posts. And they get caught up in how many posts. I tell a client, like, I'm not going to charge you per post. I just want you to know that I'm going to be listening twice as much as I post. And that's the thing that a lot of people miss with social media. Like, who cares if you answer a question nobody's asking, right? So it's imperative that we get out there and really listen twice as much as we're posting, no matter who's on your social media. What is it that people are really asking in your market, and how can you position yourself to be, an industry expert and someone who really wants to help people inside of what you do? I think what I get most passionate about is those who are really trying to help others. Like, they're filling a need and they're not looking to just promote themselves,
I noticed, I watched one of your clips on your YouTube channel, which I'll mention here. It's the acting project, right, Matt?
Yeah, well, that's definitely my channel where I'm teaching. It's one of my businesses is the acting project. I teach. It's kind of win-win. So I teach young actors how to become a professional actor and a film actor. We do a lot of things, but I'm also getting into some creative writing, and I get to sometimes use my actors to do some unique storytelling for some of my companies and my brands. So it's kind of a fun win-win with those
That's
two.
Cool.
But yeah.
No, I just noticed one with one that's local here. One of the first people I met in Charlotte is a good friend of yours, Clark Allen. So
yes.
Shout out to Clark. I think he's an amazing individual. And and then I saw your another person that I met. I think Clark initially introduced me is Manny from
Samaritan's Feet.
Samaritan's Feet, yeah,
yes.
which
another amazing man.
Go to Samaritan's Feet and find a way to support that organization. It's an awesome organization, saving. I mean, I think it's tens and even hundreds of thousands of lives of people. And so
they literally are saving lives with shoes because of the things that kids can absorb in their feet. I never realized that until Manny introduced me to it. Yeah, it's fascinating.
So I saw the video, and just to your point about getting engaged in your business with groups that are helping people, and so you did a really cool video, and I think there's a way for me to show it on here, but I will with my brother tomorrow. The video that you shot with it's Clark talking about a capital campaign that he was doing in honor of Manny and Samarin's feet, and you got Shaquille O'Neal on there mentioning it,
Uh,
and
that's one of the funniest shows I've ever seen in my life. That TNT with Shaquille
yeah,
O'Neal and Charles Barkley. I
it was
can't stop
awesome.
laughing every time I see those two joking around. It's such a perfect mix of like real professionals who know the game, but then also know life and each other so well. God, I get such a kick out of it. But yeah, that's so cool that he knows Manny and Manny knows Shaquille O'Neal and they love him. So
Seriously.
yeah,
No, it's huge. And so, yeah, no, Matt, you're like an onion. They say, like, you peel back the onion, you find out more and more. So throughout the
thank you.
time that I've gotten to know you, um, you've done fundraising too, right? You've done significant
Yeah.
amount of,
I got
helping.
to, for example, Forest Hill Church hired me to contract with them for only about 3 months, and I got to interview 48 families with all kinds of stories at Forest Hill Church. We picked 3 stories. One was Jim Zoki's story, and we pushed those 3 stories as the 3 big transformation stories of what that church has done for people. We raised $8 million in 3 months, which is pretty awesome.
Oh,
There's all kinds of things like that. Like I used to do March of Dimes all the time, and I love that. And a lot of stuff I used to do with the chamber to help them either raise funds or awareness, and got to have some fun with some of the biggest CEOs in Charlotte. I still have relationships with them from that to this day, um, which is awesome, and I love it, and I don't take it for granted. So yeah, because at the end of the day, even if you have a brand that's pushing a product, your product is either going to sell or not because it fills a void, right? It actually helps. So it's not just about nonprofit. I think every brand has an opportunity to really help people. That's why they got into it to begin with, right? So, but when I say help, it doesn't limit it to just like nonprofit organizations. So it's anybody that has, instead of getting your mind focused, it's just a mental aspect, right, of marketing. Jay Baer has that wonderful quote. If you really go out there and sell a client, you might get a client in the moment, but if you help a potential client, you actually have a client for life. And that's where he built the whole concept for Best Buy and Geek Squad, to just tell people how to, for example, change hard drives in a computer. And at first, Best Buy was like, wait, why would we do that? Because we want them to come to Geek Squad and actually get it done. He said, well, just wait. And sure enough, people pull open that computer and all those complexities, and they are not going to do it themselves. So who are they going to trust, right? So sure enough, they were coming in droves to the Geek Squad at Best Buy because they're the ones who were helping teach them how to do it. So
oh, that's cool. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that's what people might call innovation, but it really came from a cool place of wanting to educate and help people.
Well, it's also the marketing environment. Like when I first started, it was not a blue ocean, right? It was a red ocean. Like everybody's trying to steal market share from others. And then you realize, especially in our market, like and even globally, if you think about it, like there's enough clients to go around. The reality is, the more we help each other, the more the really good ones start to raise to the top and become, like what we're doing here, where we get to talk about each other and talk about, building trust with people. It's something that happens over a long period of time, but it can also be lost in an instant. So
It
that's how
can.
it is, right?
It can, and a lot of self-starters and entrepreneurs, a lot of them that we've highlighted on this show, we call them people who move, and I find you to be a person who moves. Right? You've been moving things and creating things, not only for yourself but for many others.
Yeah,
Where they struggle, I guess the general theme sometimes is where they hit a wall is, we'll just call it the technical aspect of saying, I've got a full-time job. I've got this great idea. I'm getting people that call me to say, "Hey, can you give me advice?" or something like that. And they have a way to make a little bit of a side income, for example, right? And then when that grows and grows and grows, they start thinking about, wow, I actually have a personal brand. And people are calling me for stuff now over years. And a lot of the people that we've been highlighting on the show, they have that story, and that's how they have, like Evelyn on our episode number 2. She represents a community in Alabama, and she's about women empowerment, and she started a nonprofit, Boss Women on a Mission, right? And then, but if somebody helped her and somebody mentored her to get to that place and said, these are the steps that you need to take to create that kind of separate entity, rather than just saying, I'm Evelyn. You're now able to say that I've got this organization that's now growing. Um, and the telling of that story, it was an honor for me and my brother Matt to help her tell that story on this show, because the worst feeling is the idea, and not that this was her case, but the worst feeling is that you are the only person telling your story and saying that this is what I'm trying to do. And so having somebody like you, Matt, and you've helped me in that matter also, um, having somebody else help you tell that story and even advance it to a visual, which is what you do with your production company. I think it's fascinating. And so the wall that they have in saying, well, somebody needs to hear my story. What are the options? The options are like social media. You got to get good at that. You got to get good at, telling your story yourself. But then, um, do you have a huge, like a big win of your career over the past 25 years or so, where you've helped somebody like that tell their story? And
Well, let me start. Let me start back. This one thing you said that I'm really passionate about. So, if I could tell anybody anything, especially if you're just starting out, if you breathe, you have a brand. Um, there is no separation from personal brand to professional, right? So, what are you going to do? Tell your clients, well, I go like my professional Facebook page. I'm not going to like friend you on my personal page, right? So if you breathe, you have a brand, and things on the line live forever. So I want to put that out there as a little flag to what you said. So start early, whether you have a company or not. Even if you're working in a company, you have a personal brand, and you're going to be their brand ambassador, but you're still your own brand. So don't ever forget that, especially with social media today. Everybody's getting their own handle, no matter what, right?
it's
Um,
huge.
so
Yeah.
it's huge. So, and then when it comes to brand, I've got some real passions. I studied some of the best. Steve Jobs was one of my favorite inspirers, who I studied in depth on how he built what he did with Apple. But the reality is, one of my biggest wins, like I call them the thing about people starting out is they're so close to the vision, right? And they're passionate about it, and that's great. But the E Myth is a fantastic book. If you have not read it, you start off as a technician doing something you love and you're passionate. But when your passion becomes your job, as you're learning right now, it takes a whole nother level of discipline. And that's not for everybody. I think 1 out of 5 entrepreneurs have a dream and they need to stick with the part-time, because it takes another level of discipline once, because sometimes I'm in the middle of making things I never wanted to make. You know what I mean? Because I have to bring in income. I don't get to pick and choose sometimes, and that can be kind of frustrating, especially in a subjective art form like filmmaking and that side of it that I do. So that's really important to say about people starting out. The other thing is, I call it the eye popping experience, like the eyes open experience, because somebody was so close to it. So when you first start out with something, I think it's really good. The people you get around you, don't share your vision with everybody, because it's not for everybody, and you'll be set back years with some of the people you shared it with you never should have. The other thing is, be willing to share it with people who can think big picture, because sometimes you get so close to it that you miss what other people are going to care about, because because a lot of people will get into this and this and this, and 9 times out of 10, what I realize is nobody cares about this. What they care about is the one thing and how you're affecting them, right? So the story brand concept that what's his name created, where we look at our clients now as the hero and we're just the advisor. Like, that's how you should approach everything if you go into business. It's not about you. And make sure you're focused 100% on what you're doing for them and how they receive you and how they understand what you're doing for them. And the more you do that, I think the more you'll be able to succeed and have people raving about you. And your fans will be your biggest marketing. They'll become what we call your biggest cheerleaders, right, of the brand. So my biggest eye-opening experience with this company, and I cannot disclose it, but it was a company that paid me really well to come in, and they loved my ideas and how creative I was, and said they paid me really well just to come in for 3 hours and brainstorm and sign a non-disclosure. And so I did. And the first thing out of this CEO, it's a Fortune 500 company, the first thing out of the CEO's mouth, she said, Matt, I really want to think outside the box. I want to be really creative. And I just stopped right there. And I literally threw up in my mouth for a second, because that's the worst thing in marketing anybody can ever say, because It's just not reality, right? The world is way too noisy. So I
Like
looked
a
right at
cliche,
the CEO.
like a yeah.
The CEO said, "We got to think outside the box." I looked right back at her and I said, "Okay, what is your box?"
Hmm.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? She couldn't get in 3 sentences what their company really offered and the aspect that they offer. Let me tell you something. Apple got it down to one word, right? I believe they got it down to one word. Steve Jobs says the world is very busy. It's a lot of noise out there. You get one shot for people to care about or even look into what you are. Goldfish will give you 6 seconds. A human being is going to give you 3. So the reality of thinking outside the box is the work. Let's figure out what our box is and get in our box and let your brand be the box. And that box is all you talk about. That is what you hit on, because that box involves what it does for them, right? And so she was blown away by that idea. And then we started narrowing down, like we talking about all our clients and what they love. And we got her brand down to like one really powerful sentence, which was great. But I think Apple's got it down to one word now.
What is that word?
This is my own theory, guys. I'm not saying like Steve Jobs wrote this,
Yeah.
but it's the word experience. Think about it. Apple's more expensive, but is it always better than PC? No. But every time you see one of their commercials, what is it? It's an experience. When you take a phone with you, you're going on that experience. What are you documenting with? It's the phone itself. So that in and of itself is an experience. Once a year, I have these tech guru friends who literally put it on their calendars that they have the experience of what's next in Apple at their big show they do out at the mothership, right? People will pay for an experience, right? Look at the restaurants and stuff. They don't necessarily have the better food, but it's still $200 a plate because of the atmosphere, because of the environment and the experience that you have there with the waiters, right? So
yeah, that's
people
real.
will pay for an experience. And so they said, we're not going to try to compete with these people like Microsoft's of the world with dollars. We're going to compete under that one guise. To me, the word experience. So literally they were very, very specific. I think Apple, with everything they put out there, we're very specific to make sure that anything that they watched from Apple was in and of itself an experience. And so I think that's how he blew that company out of the water. Is he stayed on site. And look, Apple's box grew, right? Their box was the iPhone, right? When it first came out, and that was a big box, right? But then look what it's done. And what do? We just trust the brand Apple. Now their box is allowed to grow. Your box can grow, right, as a brand, of course. But if you miss sight of the boundaries, like I believe there's freedom in fences when it comes to especially marketing and story. If you stay within the boundaries of what you want to communicate to people and what you are, I think you can grow, and you can grow much more foundationally instead of throw yourself wide. Because the other thing I learned as an entrepreneur that really honestly is, I have a divorce because of it, I believe, is the phrase that I read from the book The Shack, where Jesus is talking to the main character. I know it's weird, but it's true. I'm a big Jesus guy, by the way. I hate religion, but I love Jesus.
Preach it, man. Preach it.
Jesus said to the guy, imagination without wisdom is a terrible slave driver. And so because I'm so creative, like oh my gosh, Adam, I have so many creative thoughts some days. And back in the day when I was first entrepreneur, like me and even some of my team at the time would act on all these ideas, and ended up being spread so thin that I couldn't, there's no way I could keep all those balls in the air. You know what I mean? So
you said freedom with boundaries, freedom within boundaries. That's pretty key. So you're saying like you're massively
imagination without wisdom. So you have to apply wisdom to imaginations. And sometimes wisdom will say to that idea that you have that's going to break your bank in time. By the way, time is the biggest asset that you have, not money. And so if it's going to break the bank, then maybe it needs to be put in a folder until you have, like you're starting to get with these interns, right? You're starting to get these interns come in. They're going to help divide that time. So now you can take some of those things out of the folder, right, and apply those that need to happen. But you need to apply that wisdom to the imagination, to the creativity thought that you have, so that you can actually get it done. Or some of them need to just be put away and never come back out. Because at the end of the day, there's I tell my clients all the time, I'm gonna throw my ideas against the wall. Some will stick, some won't. But if you don't like those, I got 10 more coming. You know what I mean? So, and it also gets you into a mindset of not getting stuck on one thing. Because
coming back, right?
Discovery phase.
Trying.
Yeah. So that's imagination without wisdom. That changed my life. And the other one is like freedom and fences. That's what I write all my poetry under. It's freedom and fences. I own the domain name, but it's a thing that I've been with me for years now. Like, they did a study with these kids on a playground. They put them out in the field. There was a playground. They said you could explore the whole field and all the playground has to offer. Those kids stuck to that playground like it was their life, right? And they hardly went outside, right? Big open field, very clean, very short cut grass. They put a fence around that playground, and those kids explored every inch of that fence, even and played around. And I think it's a natural thing that we like. We don't want to say it, but I think there's healthy boundaries that we can have, especially as business owners, that we need
Yeah.
to learn. And the sooner you learn those healthy boundaries, right? Those things to say no to, those things that you always allow. I think the more productive you'll be from the beginning, because God knows I'd love for people to learn from my mistakes so they don't have to go through that. And yours too, right, Adam?
Yeah. No, it's absolutely. I made a lot of those mistakes myself, and also, won't say the name of the people or the properties there, but it comes to mind a hotel that I recently was a part of a team, right? And this was a beautiful hotel that was trying to be everything for everybody, and did. So you go into this fairly small hotel, there was nothing, everything was yes, and everything was sure. You want to you're in your room and you want us to make you a martini, well, the bar's not open, but I'm going to go do that for you. And so
Right.
the it created a bit of an environment where the messaging and the branding became just, like you said, too thin. And so it's so they eventually put a, in your analogy, put a fence around it to say, this is actually who we are and this is what we do. And it exploded creativity within those fences to say,
Exactly.
oh, we're not going to do those things, but wow, look at the things that we could be doing that we haven't been because we didn't really see these fences. And so
And
that's a
I
really
think
cool
in
thing
that
that you
situation,
did there.
especially in hospitality, there's a way to say no in a way that in a way that people will respect it and not
Yeah.
be. Some people are going to be narcissistic and offended no matter what in hospitality. But the reality
Yeah.
is, the majority of people, if you have boundaries and you're asking them to respect your boundaries, but you're also willing to turn over backwards within your boundaries to help them, like 9 out of 10 times, right? I mean, people are going to, I think,
It's a
respect
win.
you more, and you don't become a walking. My dad used to call him a Milber milk toast.
Yeah.
So
It's a you could be more collaborative too, by
oh yeah.
saying that, we're not just going to be this brand of hotel or whatever that's going to crush the competition, and like that's definitely not how Apple got started. They just said this is who we are, and then the brand exploded. And so
Speaking of
yeah,
hospitality, though, and since you mentioned Clark Allen used to
yeah,
do one of my favorite things in the world. I don't know if you ever came to one of them, but he would even bring me in to help do some of the creative film story stuff. But he would get some of the top hotel CEOs together in a room all together, not only sharing ideas but having a blast together and throw an egg on their face. And actually, it was very therapeutic because they're all going through the same stuff and they all can laugh at it. In fact, we made some of the funniest videos I've ever made right there, where they all had to play these quirky little characters, and even the CEOs of at that time, like some of the big executives were there. And come to find out that they grew from that more than they ever would have trying to compete, because you know
yeah,
at the end of the day, the Marriott's a Marriott, and people are going to stay at the Marriott because it's the Marriott, and people are going to stay at the XYZ because that's the brand they're comfortable with, no matter who's running it. At the end of the day, there's enough people to go around in that industry to be able to help each other, I think, because
absolutely.
especially with hiring right now, right? I mean, who can you get in this environment now that's willing to work in hospitality and be treated like that? And then I think there's a
Yeah,
big job
they want to
shortage
be inspired. They want to know more
employee
than like, this
shortage.
is what I do, but that's great. But who am I doing it for? Who am I doing it with? What am I learning, and how can I grow and move on into this industry or outside the industry?
Right. And
So
something that I want to encourage you to, because you're getting ready to take on interns and stuff, is something I say when you're deciding to grow bigger than yourself, right? I think Google and those guys, like, they really got it right from the beginning, even though they're doing some crazy things now. But you're not creating a company anymore, you're creating a culture. And you have to be, when you're creating that as an entrepreneur, you're creating a culture with your clients, but especially when you're bringing on people, you really have to be willing to be a servant leader in this day and age, and honestly, be willing to be cognitive and compassionate enough to find things that really find people's why to get the to get them engaged. Because at the end of the day, they're going to be one of your brand ambassadors, right? So you've got to find a way to create a culture, not just a company, and that starts everywhere from, how you start the morning meeting off. Are you starting down a business, or are you asking them how their day went? It's stupid, simple things like that. People say they don't know how to do social media. It's the same stuff your mama taught you. You got two ears and one mouth. Listen twice as much as you post. It's the same concept with creating a culture. It's not complicated. It just takes a couple of extra seconds a day to think about others that are working for you, all that they're bringing to the table, and make it about them. And I think you'd be amazed how many people will buy in, because that's what we really want, right? As a brand.
It is. And I think that to identify yourself, I've been through a bit of a self-awareness exercise for intensely for about 5 years, right? And trying to learn about myself and become more self-aware, right? And that's going to continue. There's no like start, end, or middle or end there. But the internship, the apprenticeship programs that we have started, it starts with that. It starts with them filling out their own personal SWOT analysis, or strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat, the way that we do in a competitive nature of trying to see how you can kind of win over the competition. So we're flipping that and having it be about them, so that they can find out about themselves and where they want to be, because it's a unique time in our culture here nationally, because there's opportunity that exists that you and I never had, right? At a certain age, but it also is expanding exponentially every day, and what the opportunities might be that we don't even know about. So yeah, I think that's the you mentioned how creative you are, right? So you're another theme that on our show that comes out a lot uh, um, organically, is the fact that the industry that we call hospitality, maybe specific hotel industry, is filled with creative people, right? And so they are writing blogs, they're starting their own YouTube channel or a TikTok page, and they have their own personal brand, right? So I love it because it's an explosion of, and it's an outlet for that creativity. The and I noticed that you have a guitar behind you. So is that an outlet for creativity? Is that something that somebody can be like, "Hey, I'm just going nuts here with my ideas." Um, uh, has that been a tool for you? Actually taking that into and creating music, or what?
Well, honestly, I'm in our studio. That's Keith's guitar. So
Oh,
I
cool.
thought it looked better than nothing else. But yeah, so I write poetry is a big outlet for me. I think Orson Welles said brilliantly that camera is not a great camera. What did he say? How did he say it? Anyways, a great filmmaker is only when the camera is in the hands of the eyes of a poet. Um, I didn't
Nice.
start writing poetry because of that, but I've always been a poet. I'm might as well be writing songs because it's very metered. I also have I actually have three Xboxes hooked up, so my boys and I can play together. So that's a great outlet.
Mhm.
And I think creatively, I'm always writing now. I'm writing short films and scenes for my actors, but also like right now, I'm creating this whole concept for two new clients that I have. One of which you asked me to mention, but it's true. I mean, I was late to the call. I'm so sorry because I got so caught up trying to really focus on her book. One of my clients, bless her heart, has a book coming out. It's called Slow Dance with the Devil. I'm going to read you the exact title. It's called Slow Dance with the Devil, and it's a mother's, a son's battle with substance abuse disorder and a mother's anguish. She just lost her son to fentanyl poisoning in 2001. And
Right.
it's just crazy how her story is coming out. So her book is launching in November. So she's asked me to build her website and get all her social media platforms set up. And more importantly, get the strategy in place, I think is key. And I think just in reading the first 16 pages, I've already got a great idea for helping, to tell the story of this book.
Well, you're living your what you just taught me. You're living your brand of the two ears and your one mouth, right? you're
That
reading
ain't
the
my
book
brand. That's
first.
my mama's brand. You know, your mama too.
Yeah.
She does the same thing, brother.
My mama said the same thing. Uh, she also, as far as being a poet, she also said I was always a stand-up comedian, but I've never been on stage. She was my only audience.
Right, but you're
And
so
so,
witty.
yeah, oh yeah, sure. To her, she was a great audience to have, believe me. She,
Right. Yeah.
um, but no, on your slow dance with the devil, you're just as a compliment, Matt. That is what makes you unique, and the ability to stay independent in your own business, whatever, as a brand consultant, because you're reading the book first because you are eventually going to tell that story. And whereas I've been a little frustrated, to be honest, so I've been, I've engaged some folks over the years to help me tell a story, whether it be about me or, whatever I'm working on. And it is just like a brick wall when I realize that that person didn't take 5 minutes to learn a little bit more deeper than what's on the surface about whatever it is that I'm working on, right? And it's like, you didn't even go to the website?
Right.
Like, why are you, and they say that they spent the time. So, kudos. I hate that word. I shouldn't have said it. But
All
uh,
right. We're
cheers
ex-Jenners.
to
We
you,
get it.
man, for doing that, and for reading that book. That is something that means a lot to me. It's something that I do. I want to study as much as I possibly can about the person that I'm talking to, um, and being with. And so, you're also a parent, just like me, and
Right.
I think that
Of
we
teenagers now.
learn. Yeah, right. I mean, it's crazy, and we are learning more from them than I ever did in high school or college or even in my career. And so the putting on our listening agents and watching that is it's a privilege and an honor to see that happening, and it guides my life too. So,
Well,
um,
it's funny you say that because honestly, running a good company is like being a good parent, right? So
mhm.
there's stages. You start off with control. You get to control everything. Our kids are young. We get to control them. Now I have three teenagers, and there's no such thing as control. It's the same
No,
as when you have a good company with great people underneath you. Now we're moving from control, right, to influence. And so
mm,
you want your influence to be enough that it impacts them to buy in to the story and want to tell. At the end of the day, if you're doing a great job as a leader, you're going to have some turnover because you're going to inspire people to follow their dream or passion or whatever. So it's tricky being a business owner and being so passionate about something and then having people like you have like come underneath, try to get a side of the vision, and then because they don't pick it up, whatever, it can be very discouraging to you because you've been called to this. I'd say that you have a purpose, Adam. Like you were created for this purpose, right? So
yeah.
it's hard, but it's also God's way to me personally. Of sometimes it hurts, but He's also cutting people out of your life. When He says, He's gonna continue in our lives to the next spiritual level for me. The gift that God gives me is more pruning. Thank you,
Yeah.
God. It's the same in business. The more responsibility you get, the more bigger you get. The more pruning you have to go through because you got to start taking your hands off of a lot of things and trusting people, and that's hard. And again, I cannot recommend the E-Myth enough because you go from being a technician to being able to really look over the whole company. I think the E-Myth has, if you could read it before you start, you'll start to see the tendencies that you have because sometimes you're just so close to it, you can't possibly see what what I was going to say. And what I'd say is this about that too,
About the E-Myth, the
about
book.
the E-Myth and about your business. Talking about entrepreneurs, someone who's willing to move, like the whole concept of your show, like to help entrepreneurs, right? The big thing for me is what I love when I come on with a client is I tell them I want to get everything out of you I can, but don't start giving me what you want right away. We're going to go through this interview process where we get to interview a lot of clients and stuff and all these people on camera. Be willing to step back and be on what I call a discovery phase. That's what you're in right now with Hospiama, right? The discovery phase is the most fascinating, exciting thing to me because you're going to find things out about your brand that you never would have thought to bring up, and actually is much more important than you thought the message should be because it's coming from the people who you're trying to affect, right? So be
Exactly
willing
right.
to
Yeah.
step back and really listen once you go on that discovery phase and really listen to what other people have to say, because and more importantly, your clients, like whoever your client is, like be willing to listen, be willing to fail fast, fail forward, but fail better by listening and be transparent about failure and say, hey guys, we didn't get it right, but look, we hear you, and here's how we're adjusting. You know what I mean? It goes so much farther when people are willing to do that, I think. You know what I mean? So
You're reminding me of another book that I read, and you may have read it. Did you read Rick Rubin's book, The Creative Act?
no.
Uh,
And let's be, I'm going to be totally transparent. I don't read books. I listen to them.
yeah, no, that's fine.
Which is
Yeah,
why this is so hard for me, because there's no audio version yet. I'm very
I'm a long
ADHD,
time,
and I know that, so I've had to learn my boundaries as well. But yeah,
long time Audible member.
I don't have that.
Yeah, no,
I don't
it's
have that
what I'll do is I'll get inspired. I'll see someone on a YouTube channel talk about the book, and that's what I saw Rick Rubin talking about his book. So I get the book and I start reading it, and I'll read the first chapter, and I'm like, maybe I'll just use an Audible credit to start listening. So,
and sometimes I want to tell writers, be the writer of the book. Don't be the reader.
yeah,
They don't have the gift that some of these amazing. Sometimes I'll go to the reader of a book and find my books based off of him. But yeah, no. But I will say this, because they deserve it. They've changed my life. Anything Jay Baer puts out he is a very growing. Jay Baer is one of those who is constantly moving with the market, moving with the way things are, helping people constantly with all the new platforms and all the new things. And he's amazing, Jay Baer. His book, Utility, Utility, really changed my life. And I think anybody doing any level of marketing. See, here's the thing. You got to stop thinking about social media as a separate thing, right? It's all your brand. You're omni-channel, right? So yes, you need a YouTube, you need this. It's your demographic will decide some of the platforms you're on, but you need to be on multiple, and everything needs to come back to your website, and you need to own your website. Your website is the only thing you can actually legally own. All these great things people are doing with YouTube is great. They're making millions of dollars. Guess what? YouTube shuts down tomorrow. They got no rights. YouTube owns YouTube, good. Right? So if Facebook shuts down tomorrow, you got no rights. So that's an important thing to know. But at the end of the day, don't separate Facebook and all these things just because you don't understand them or know some of the new things with TikTok and what is it, Threads. They're trying to compete with Twitter now, since Twitter has become X. I don't.
Yeah.
I just say he's too smart for me. I have no idea where he's going.
There's probably a plan there, right?
Right, but I want to put this in there too, since we're helping businesses. And I know.
Let me just make sure I got his name right. It is
J-A-Y, and it's Bayer. I think it's B-A-Y-E-R.
And he has a book called Utility. Something?
That's one of his books. He's got a bunch of books, and he does.
Utility.
Y-E-R.
I see it there. I'll give him a shout out that he means somebody. B-A-E-R. Yeah, Utility.
Yeah, and I actually got to meet him at
help, not help. No, I was reading Utility. Utility. Why smart marketing is about help, not hype. That's
exactly.
Cool,
man. I want to give him full credit. That's where I got that mantra. I mean, it's things that I was actually doing, but he helps put it in a context. And again, that becomes a part of your boundary of storytelling, right? How am I helping? And if the moment that you find yourself, quote, promoting on social, stop, because you're gonna lose a lot of trust if you're just promoting, right? So I
see another one that says hug your haters.
Yes. Yes, and cool. He's got a lot of stuff you can get on his newsletter for free, and be sure to tell him I told you to go there. But I met him 2 years in a row. I went to San Diego for the big convention where all the influencers came, and there's a guy who does podcasting on podcasting, right? So I got to meet Jay Baer, spend some time with him, and they taught a lot of great things about social platforms back then. And now things are changed, but at the same time, people aren't changed as much as we'd like to think they are.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's people out there, and if they're looking for you, it's because it's for a reason that you're filling a void of some kind, and always keep it about what's in it for them. And the other book I want to put out there is what's it called? Story Brand.
Yeah, you've mentioned that before.
Only because, again, they're game changers. Building a story brand. What's his name? Yeah. Anyway, I think it's Donald Miller.
I see that. Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller.
Yeah, he's got 100 versions of that now. It's crazy, but yeah, I think it's Donald Miller. And again, it comes back to the concept of when you're starting a business, you can't help but get a little about what you're doing, and sometimes you can get a little selfish. I went through years of that, thinking I was bringing this great. I'm a great person. I'm bringing these great things to people they didn't have before. And the reality is, they're actually the great. My clients are the great ones because they're actually doing the work. I'm just helping to tell the story of what they're doing, and it just changed. And so the idea is that your client, whoever your client is the superhero, and you're the guide. So I started calling myself Gandalf the Blue.
You've been my Donald Miller, I guess you might call it, because you
Yeah.
recognized early in our relationship that concise messaging is not my natural talent.
You got a
You
lot of
got,
words, my brother. You know it's
yeah,
true. Look
I got
about mine.
lots
They
of
could talk
words.
for days, and they still not really saying anything. Yeah.
So clarifying your message so customers will listen is you've been very helpful to me in that, and also you're naturally you recognize the others that support and help you. um you mentioned God and your relationship to Jesus, and these other people that you've learned from. Do you have a massive mentor in business that's been with you from the start, um that's always helped
Yes,
kind of
my
lift you
uncle
up a
Nick
little bit?
Francis, who's he was like one of the big men at IBM for years. He was a big mentor. There's another one named Bob Dunn. Love Bob Dunn. He was a really high executive that I started filming like once a month to help him tell his story to his people. And I found
What
out
was
how
the
much he
first
loved
one
God.
again, Matt? You said
Nick
from
Francis. Yeah, Nick Francis, my uncle. The other one was the late great Ossie Mills. He used to be the big CEO over at what was it? What's that? Inspiration Network. He was the main executive, the CEO of Inspiration Network for years, and he's actually the one who gave me that concept. I got to work with him shortly before he died, and he's the one who sat with me and prayed with me, and he said, Matt, you got a lot of great ideas, and that's why he liked working with me. And he also said, but I could tell how it's already running you pretty rampant. He said, some of those ideas just need to go in a folder and pray about it and put it in a folder, and I promise you, God will open up a door for that to possibly come about. And it's helped me get much more focused in business and stay on task with what I really need to do today. And it's not giving up on tomorrow. It's letting it have its time because that's the thing God teach. No, number one, you want to hear God laugh out loud. Tell him your plans.
yeah, right.
But the thing with me is, I want to make it
Yeah.
very clear. I hate religion. You can do anything religiously. I'm a pastor's son, so I went through my phase of like fighting God and being pissed at God, and because I felt like it was just a bunch of rules and stuff. And there's a lot of Christians out there that I get the maddest at because at the end of the day, God said, "Love never fails." And when people are judging other people, love can't be present because there's fear involved, right? So I don't judge anybody. My goal is to teach them the experience that I've had in Christ, who saved me when my brother died, and make sure people know that there's a living God that we can really hear if we're willing to take the time to listen. Like somebody once said, getting to the other end of silence is the only way to hear from God. And it's not some great, powerful voice that comes in my ears, but he does speak to me in brilliant ways. And it's a thought. One of the best thoughts I had, and this will, I think, pertain to a lot of entrepreneurs out there who make mistakes. I was really beating myself up one time in the shower, and I was just crying out to God and screaming, and felt like a horrible person because all the mistakes I made. I'd spread myself so thin, and God very calmly in one thought just said, "Matt, yeah, they're poop. They're absolutely crap. That's true." He said, "But they're fertilizer for the seed that I'm growing in you. So let it be what it is, and stop throwing poop on yourself."
Wow.
I said, "That wasn't me." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just so
Yep.
that's the God I serve, and the God I'll die serving, because I bring him with me everywhere in business and everything, because he makes me he helps me to listen to people and not look at behaviors as who people are. And I need that eternal perspective when I'm dealing with people sometimes, because people are going to fail us. Expectations is the gap. I try not to put any expectations on human beings anymore, which is hard.
Right.
With my kids.
It's
But
very hard.
it's made me a better businessman. just letting God help me with some of the boundaries in my life, because they're there out of love and concern for me, not out of Him wanting to like see if I'm accountable. There's only I really believe, Adam. Since we're on this for 2 more seconds, I believe there's two religions in the world. There's only two. Number one is all the other religions, Buddhism. I mean, name it, Scientology, blah blah blah. Everything's about what you do to prove to God you're X, right? Christianity is the only one that God just asked you to receive what Jesus did on the cross. That's all we have to do is receive that. And then it's about growing in that relationship. Yes, and there's boundaries that come in place. But the reality is it's not performance based, to be a Christian for me. It's and that's a lot of Christians out there, especially in business. Like they think it even, they have to be performance based. When I do this, then God will be happy with me. When I do this, no, He's happy with me now because my back of my shirt. Can you read it? Can you see it? It says becoming. We're always becoming. We're always in progress. So the moment you stop becoming, nice. You might as well die, right?
Well, I'll tell you, you mentioned perspective, and you're consistently, I think you called it the eternal perspective. That's really nice because it's consistently reminding yourself, right? And you're reminding me and our listeners, and that's what you said was the opposite of fear, which is love. And you can come down to those personal messages or your personal brand or your service to others, and it does come down to that. Like, are you expressing love or fear? Those
are the two biggest motivators that people do everything out of. It's either love or fear. It's very often one or the other.
Yeah,
I'm talking very core root of everything, right?
The core root, and even hunger comes from love, right? The desire to feed or yourself and others, and how the birds kind of regurgitate their love and feed their young and things like that. I was watching
metaphorically and literally all at the same time. Fantastic.
That's right.
Well, I do want to say though, oh gosh, you just reminded me. I want to say something about that. By the way, I can't love anybody. I'm not capable of love. I think the kind of love that I'm talking about, like I have to receive the love that God has for me first. And what happens is it automatically overflows from me into other people. For example, like I do prison ministry. I haven't been able to do it in the last couple of months because of my schedule, but at first I meet these prisoners, and it's a full felony, like it's a maximum security prison in South Carolina. And we go in there to help them with their worship service and encouragement and talk to them about where they're at. And I thought I was going to have to try to love them. But then I got in there and I was like, what a great thing I'm doing, blah, 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 blah. And when that door closed behind me, bro, it was the most humbling thing I'd ever experienced in my life. I mean, it was absolute. My freedom was immediately taken from me. And I heard that door close. And here I am in this place. Some of these guys are literally never getting out of prison. And they have 3 life sentences. Some of the guys that I talked to. And literally, they're laughing and screaming and praising God. And they're like, they have so much joy because of they're sourced in an eternal perspective, right? And I think that's what we miss out on. It's so hard. It's like the Matrix, right? I think it's so hard as human beings being caught up in business, being caught up in this and doing the right thing, right? God didn't call us to be right. It can be sin sometimes to be right. Like that's why it drives me crazy. Some of these Christians who are just out there trying to win a battle with the Bible, and that's not what God called us to do. So I'm passionate about sharing that love that I get to receive from God every day, because without that, I fail miserably. I have to take the time to receive it for myself. And that's where a lot of Christians mix up. They're like, I have to go love you more, Adam. Well, you're not as lovable as you think you are, bro. You know what I'm saying? Neither am I, by the way.
No, exactly.
When I really get down to it sometimes, but
someone asked me that can't remember what the topic was, but the question was what attracts me to another person or a company or a brand or whatever it was, and it was an exercise where we had to write down words and things, and the word that I came up with was enthusiasm, and so that was like my word, and I had to talk about what it meant to me, and I went on about enthusiasm, and so I said, basically, I'm attracted to people that are enthusiastic about whatever it is that they're doing. Like if they really care about what they're doing, I just love that. And I get curious and I was like, tell me more, tell me more. And this woman to my right and said, enthusiasm. She said, what you're attracted to is the God that's inside of them, because she said enthusiasm means God within. And I looked it up and I did not know that. Entheos,
Mm,
God
brilliant,
within. I had no idea. And I said,
brilliant.
wow, it is
Yeah.
brilliant. And
Well, the
I looked
Greeks
it up
had
not because I
the
didn't
Greeks
believe
had
her,
6 levels
but
for
because I
love,
thought it was
right?
the coolest thing. And I wanted
Yeah,
to share that. Yeah,
that's beautiful. Yeah. Well, the
it
Greeks
is.
had six words for the word love, right? There's ethos. Um, there's what is it? Eros, which is the erotic love, the blah blah, and then there's agape or agape, depending on who you talk to, right? Um, but that God's only capable of that. Like we have to have God in us to love people unconditionally, you know. And at the
Yeah,
end of the day, it's hard, but it's also worth it because
it is.
I can't explain it. Like I can even thank God for the crap that happens in my life now because of what He's doing with it that I can't even see. And I literally, because I trust Him, I can have joy in the moment and anxiety leaves because of the trust that I have for Him. The other thing I want to say about my walk with God is, and I want to put this out there as encouragement. A lot of people are going to tell you as Christians, you got to have more faith. That's BS. Call them on it anytime anybody ever says that to you. Faith is
Mm.
the word pistis. Pistis comes from the Greek. It actually means divine persuasion. Faith is even a gift we get from God if we just ask for it. So ask for more faith. I mean, it's amazing what He'll do and how He'll show up. You know what I mean? Because again, it's the only religion in the world where you have to be willing to receive, right? And people worry about what they have to give up, but the reality is your desires are affected. He affects us to the level of desire, right? It's just amazing how he can get in and like our desires start to change for things that are even more healthy for us in the long term. You know what I mean? So it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, yeah, I do. Well, it's very powerful and it's very deep, and uh, just like what's happened with some other, these call it interviews or conversations that we've been having. I could stay on here for the next 5 hours and go
I know.
even deeper and
You start
deeper.
talking God, buddy. You better get your sleeves up
No,
because
it's
I'm
just
ready to
I
roll.
I do. It's probably the most proud thing. I was talking to my brother Matt, who I'll be. We're doing our live event tomorrow at
I love
3.
his name, by the way. It's just it means gift of
Isn't it
God.
beautiful? It's like Matteo, Matthew. Yeah,
Adam, you're the first man. You're welcome. I don't even know
I
what to
know.
say to
That's why
that.
I don't have any hair. Well, it fell off about the
Well, you
year.
should also be thanking God that I do have hair because if you saw what's going on back here, I think people would run. You know, just like have a huge melon.
Maybe I'm still becoming
You can pull it
with
off.
my hair.
Nah,
Yeah,
dude, you can pull it off bald. I could not pull off bald. I know that now.
it's
Yeah,
thank you. They
yeah,
I it's I don't have much of a choice, but I say no. I choose to be bald today.
that's
I'm
right.
I'm in full control.
That's right. I love that you're not trying to grow out little patches. You're just like shaving it all. It's healthy.
I could like a little ponytail back here. Look,
Be like
yeah.
a samurai warrior of the old school.
Maybe that's in my future.
Yeah. So what else
Um,
do you want to know from me, or you feel
well,
good
I
about it? I
would
mean,
say
I could go anywhere you want.
you're in your own business. You are an entrepreneur. Are you looking for more clients? Do you have any cool projects that you want to share? Let's promote you. How do people get a hold of you? Maybe do you want them to get a hold of me and I'll forward it to you,
Yeah.
or
Well, I mean, if you go to
do you have paparazzi?
theactingproject.com, yeah, theactingproject.com will have a way to get to me for sure. Because my tap
Theactingproject.com. Yep.
Yep. It's Tap Productions is also under that. We're going through a rebranding phase as we speak. But so that's a quick and easy way. But one of the things I have coming up that I'm really excited about. On the other side, I've also like I have a theater degree, so that's kind of why I think have a unique approach to story. Like because I've been in the performing arts my whole life. But I have a theater degree, and one of the things I've been doing for years is I taught high school theater for 3 years. And I love directing high schoolers and teaching and working with them. I recently got to produce and direct Into the Woods with a 47 middle schoolers out in Southern Pines, and we did an amazing show at the Sunrise Theater in downtown Southern Pines. It was awesome. I love
Wait,
for kids to have the opportunity to become part of that.
I mean, that sounds massive. So you did Into the Woods in
Yes,
Southern
and
Pines
it
with
was cool because
47 high school students?
these are all middle schoolers, and
Middle schoolers.
47 of them were in the show. Yeah, so we had the first half was really cool. We did on stage with a big live opening, which was great. But then when they went into the woods, we went and shot everything in the woods actually for four solid days with the kids. But we did all of it as a film, and because it was right in the middle of just a year after COVID. So we worried about things being shut down. For the kids' sake, we didn't want to have to cancel the show. So worst case scenario, we get to show the film right online. So that's why we did it that way. It ended up being beautiful because we a lot of humor and stuff we had to do. So right when they went into the woods, this big screen came down in the theater, and we watched a 40-minute film of their journey through the woods. And I was able to do all the special effects and stuff with film, which is a lot easier than on stage. And it worked out so brilliantly because then when they came out of the woods back to the home, they were back on stage. So long story short, I've been working with teenagers my whole career. We're in the 13th season of the acting project. I've got everything from 10, 11 years old to 50-something-year-olds in that class, and teaching film acting. And we're doing really creative content, which is a lot of fun. But more importantly, I saw a need about 10 years ago. I've been selling this name. It's called racetobroadway.com. So I'm getting ready to do a huge production next summer is the goal. And this is actually the first public place I'm really saying it. I've told a lot of friends, but I've already got my production manager. But we're going to produce. I've already been talking to the Blumenthal Performing Arts. We're going to give out all these high school talent. So I don't know if you know about Charlotte, but the Blumenthal Performing Arts is an amazing organization that has what's called the Bloomies, right? 38 high schools participate just in Charlotte, Mecklenburg, in the Bloomies. And what that is it's an award thing, just like the Tonys. But if they win there, they get to go to New York. There's a boy and a girl from every show. They get nominated. If they win, they get to go to New York and do what's called the Jimmies. And if you win the Jimmies, you actually don't go to school. You just go to Broadway. Like, it's that big, right? So that's how talented these kids are. There's tons of schools with this kind of level of talent. And it broke my heart because I found out some of these high schoolers were doing like all these 4 months of rehearsal and all this hard work and giving their lives. And they did like 1 week of shows. Of course, they're all sold out, but they only got to have 1 week of shows. So the idea is we're going to do 2 weeks in Charlotte. We're going to do a 2-week run in Charlotte with the show. And then my goal is I'm talking to people like the Temple Theater, like Sanford, North Carolina, like doing one that's not too far, but we actually take it on tour and bring it to another city because these kids are that talented. And there's nothing really to give them an opportunity to have that kind of like a run when they spend all that time on it. You know what I mean? Plus, I've already got a Broadway performer, one of my good friends, Jeff Creedy, who did Tootsie on Broadway recently. He was the lead in Tootsie. He's already agreed that he'd love to come down and work with the kids as part of the workshop part of it. So we're gonna have a lot of opportunity for high schoolers to work together for a solid, hard 2 weeks, where we'll be doing we'll work on technique and all that part of the day, but the rest of the day we'll be working on the show. It'll be about a 2-week rehearsal process, and then we're going to put on a huge show. And I'm putting it under the name Race to Broadway. I'm working on picking the show right now, but I'm really looking forward to this because I think the community is going to just absolutely embrace the idea of supporting these kids and all the talent we have in Charlotte. And these kids deserve it, man. They're working their butts off. Some of these kids are in dance classes for 10 years and vocal lessons and stuff, and they don't have anything like this until they go to college. And hopefully they get to go to a college where it has a decent program. You know what I mean? So
yeah, it's huge and amazing what the confidence that they build by doing it longer than, like you said, a shorter period and
absolutely.
Do it I mean, they're gonna have for life.
It's a bigger it's an even bigger payoff for all the work that they're putting in. To be able to do more than just a single week. And across the board, I think the kids would kill to have a few more show nights instead of just 4.
Yeah,
or exactly. 5 if they have a matinee, right? Some of them will do 2 weeks.
Race to Broadway, Matt?
Do what? It's called Race to Broadway, and I own the domain. It's I'm in the process of building the website now. It's called racetobroadway.com. So yeah, and I've almost finalized the logo, and we've already started production wise, and now we're you'll hear from me soon because I'll be raising awareness, and we're gonna give parents and people a lot of opportunity to help support these kids in like just a simple way, like a partner with it, like $10 a month or whatever, just to help make it. Because to put on a show like this, the quality we want to do it. I've literally the guy that he used to be a student of mine, but he does Broadway shows over at. I was amazed with the budget that they have at Flat Rock Playhouse. His name's Adam Goodrum. He's the production manager over there, but they have full Broadway talent. It's a Broadway tour that comes in. They have full Broadway designers and set designers. So he's actually going to be my production manager. And I know what he brings in. It's going to be some of these kids will never have been able to work with something that level of design before.
Yeah, that's big.
So I think the goal is to have all those avenues covered and let these talents let these kids just shine because I know and raise the bar even for them because in some of the things that I saw, I know that I know they're capable of even more. And what I saw was fantastic. You know what I mean? So there's a lot. I watched 3 shows this year of high schools, and I'm blown away with the talent that we have in the community. And that's only 38 of the schools in Mecklenburg. How many high schools are there in Mecklenburg? Some of them were ones I went to see the show, and they don't even participate in the Bloomies because they didn't get there for whatever reason, you know, because of the timing or something. But
Yeah, I think funding is a big part of it. So if you're listening to this, help out, and help that. You can make a big impact. And
yeah,
so
we'll definitely have that avenue coming shortly because because it's an amazing community of kids that we have, and it's a
it
chance
is.
for them to take their time during summer and do something that they're gifted in, and also be a light in a dark place, man. I mean, it's very entertaining, very exciting to see. I mean, I called it Race to Broadway because you're literally seeing Broadway right before it gets to happen. You know what I mean? Like these kids some of them are literally what our future of Broadway. They're that talented.
Absolutely. And plus the to tie it back to hospitality and hotels, I know, because I'm being me, the 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 use of improv and role playing has been with me since I was a 20-year-old manager, and it was used because somebody like you with an acting and drama background was one of my first supervisors
That's right.
in hotels, and he would constantly put us on the spot to like, sorry, go in the corner, tell me about what you know about IBM. I don't know, whatever. Tell me about the last
Worst
movie.
logo ever made, but one of the biggest brands in the
Yeah.
world. There's a reason for that.
Well, I say that because you mentioned it as one of your mentors there. So it's like and you're bringing out that that love, that care that somebody has at a fairly young age, and it'll attach them whether they become actors on Broadway or they become the best employee or the best husband or wife or best person.
Absolutely.
You're bringing out the best in them, and it's something, especially around that age of the teenagers that you and I are seeing as parents. It's like sometimes you got to reach out and grab it. You got to say like, hey, get out there and do something that's different. So good for you, man. That's awesome.
Well, it's
That's
funny
really
you say
cool.
that because this may be what great way to end this puppy and bring it home. But
Sure.
two things I'll
Let's
say.
do it.
One is absolutely what we do at the acting project, and I tell the parents this all the time, like, and I tell the people involved, like, it's going to make you better at everything because we're starting to tap into a side of your brain that the world has told you to shut off. That's the reality of it. Like, if you gave a kid before they go into preschool, even like a test that they deem whether or not they're a creative genius, there was actually a test done with these kids over a 20-year period. It was out in California, and they tested them, and like it was something like, and don't quote me on this, but it's close to like 96, 97% of those kids tested at creative genius right before they went to school. Well, they got into school right before middle school, they're tested again. Almost 50% of them were already cut down out of the creative genius. By the time I graduated high school, it was like a ridiculous percentage. It's because
Yep.
I've just been in a performing arts field. It was all the way. I was the captain of the football team, captain of the wrestling team, and I did the musical. I would never have traded any of those. I was lucky in that we were always, to your point, doing improv, doing things to creatively bring our imaginations to life. The other thing I want to say about doing performing arts and any level is the number one thing I teach my kids on day one is number one is the freedom to fail, but number two is you have to have empathy to learn how to act. Otherwise, you're going to suck. Because if you judge your character, you never get an opportunity to play them fully because you'll never really understand where it all comes from. So I get to help teach empathy, which is something that's dying, I think, in our culture to some extent.
Absolutely.
So it's beautiful.
You do it through acting
the
and
brain
through
going is a great
creating.
thing for people in starting a business. Keeping that side of your brain going for businesses when they're starting out, like make sure you have things in place to get that brainstorming to where it's like more creative, even like improv based, whatever, but find ways to break down the walls and prime the pump and let it flow. No bad idea. Like I always have a round table when I start thinking of things with my company and people that are helping. And the round table means nobody's the head of the table. All the ideas matter. And let's get them all against the wall. Let's see what sticks. Somebody has to kind of steer through them, but make sure you create avenues for the idea to come from anywhere. Like some of my kids at 12 years old have a genius idea that I never would have thought of, and I totally will go with that. You know what I mean? So it's pretty cool.
You know, to even mention, I'll be talking about this interview with you with my brother tomorrow, and my brother is an agile leader, an agile coach. He's a Scrum master, and in the world of project management, software development, and now he's teaching others and hiring others for others that have and not only an agile mindset but an agile leadership, career path. And so what you're describing is that the round table, right? And all ideas are good ideas, and whatever you want to call it, throw it against the wall. He has taught me so much, and a big part of this conversational theme of what we do every week is we call it worlds colliding. Of, like, say, we hospitality and hotels, typically known as not very agile and not very creative, but with very agile and creative people in the industry, and they hit that creative wall. And so when we infuse this other, kind of put a name to it, and they see that there's other opportunities to do that, that's a big reason why you and I keep coming back to the table and talking about things. And we're talking about all the different projects that you're working on in your company. It's because we have a similar, call it, mindset, but also a desire to bring it back to the one of your mentor books there, building a story brand and clarifying your message so customers will listen, and hugging the haters, like you said. But it's a your voice, Matt, is really important, for, call it, our audience members, because we do represent the people in the field, regular people, that have aspirations to do something. And it might be to own their own hotel, to own their own management company, to start their own side business, to become a motivational speaker, to become an actor, and or to start their own podcast. And so there is your voice. I'm glad that we're hopefully amplifying it here, and the message. And so
I appreciate it for
I
sure.
will ask
Yeah.
for, ironically, I will ask for your expertise to help clip it up, to cut it up into little snackable pieces, because you
Right.
have a lot of nice nuggets here, man. I'll tell you
Yeah.
the
Well,
um,
honestly, I have a heart. I really hope that it helps somebody. That's my goal. So
hey,
I was willing
you
to do
helped
it.
me, and so
That's
you
what,
at least helped one. So
yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, no problem, buddy. Yeah. Yes, and learn from our mistakes. That's the goal, Adam. Let them learn from our mistakes because we made a lot of them.
We can probably write a couple novels about them, right? That's for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah.
All right, man. Well,
Cool, brother.
we'll end it here, and thank you, Matt Francis, and go to theactingproject.com. Keep your eye out for Race to Broadway, and rewind the numerous books and references that you've made. E-Myth, your mentors, Nick Francis, Bob Dunn, Ossie Mills. Some really wonderful stuff here, Matt. So thank you, and we'll
Yes.
anytime that you want to get a hold of Matt or anybody that we have on here, you can contact me, Adam, at hospiamo.com.
Excellent.
And
And safe
in some
journey always, my friend. As to
yeah,
all your
man.
listeners, safe journey always. Enjoy.
Thank you,
God
brother.
bless.